Good morning, participants. I welcome you all for the day 3 of 5-day online faculty development program on emerging trends in sustainable technologies, sponsored by ATAL, AICT Training and Learning, organized by Department of Mechanical, Mangalore Institute of Technology and Engineering, Mudbidri, Karnataka. I am Madhusudan B, Assistant Professor, Department of Mechanical, Mangalore Institute of Technology and Engineering, will be coordinating for the things for the today's session. Dear participants, before getting into the first session, let me brief out about today's sessions. The first session would be from 9:30, Design Thinking and Conventional and Hybrid Electric Powertrains by Dr. Purnesh Kumar K, Professor, NITK Surathkal. The second session would start from 11:15 on the topic Society Impacts of Ever Increasing Energy Demand by Dr. Shashikanta Karnika, Professor, Namam Nitte, Karnataka. And session 3 in the afternoon would start from 2:30 to 4 p.m. on the topic Methodologies for Range Optimization of an Electric Vehicle for Sustainable Mobility, a Thermal Perspective by Mr. Ravi Ranjan, a lead engineer from Mahindra and Mahindra. So for the today's session, is on the topic of conventional and hybrid
Hello, Madhusudan. I think you are not audible to me.
in Department of Mechanical.
Yeah, there is a problem with the voice. Can you please recheck your volume, or you can log out and log in?
Yes, yeah. Central Electrochemical Research in
Matsudan, better voice is breaking.
Songdo,
Sir, Matsudan, sir, voice is breaking.
Techno Park in South Korea, in fuel cells and its component. On behalf of
Okay, now it is okay.
Good morning, participants. Am I audible now? Sir, Lokesh, sir, am I audible?
Yes, it's
Yes.
very clear, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks you for that. So the first session would be of Design Thinking and Conventional and Hybrid Electric Powertrains will be delivered by Dr. Purnesh Kumar K. I will be happy and glad to introduce Dr. Purnesh to all the participants. Dr. Purnesh Kumar K is currently working as Assistant Professor in Department of Mechanical Engineering, National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, Surathkal. Prior to this, he was served in many institutions and many industrial companies in India and other parts of the world, like CSIR, Central Electrochemical Research Institute, Chennai, Department of Mechanical Engineering, VTU Belagaum, affiliated colleges like SJEC Mangalore and SCEM Mangalore, MIT Manipal, Yushin Precision Industrial Company, Songdo Technopark, South Korea, Inha University, South Korea, Korea Institute of Energy Research, South Korea. Dr. Punesh was awarded PhD in February 2011 by Inha University, South Korea, for the research on experimental and numerical investigation of structural principles of polymer electrolyte fuel cells and its components. On behalf of Department of Mechanical, Mangalore Institute of Technology and Engineering, and all the participants, we welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mike. And I hope I am audible. Am I good to go?
Yes, sir. You are clearly audible, sir.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see this, my screen.
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay. Thank you once again, Matal, and Mike, for this opportunity. And I would like to commence my presentation on the conventional and hybrid electric powertrains. Okay. So in the title, there was some typo that power and trains was there. It's a single word, powertrains. Okay. So I'm not a professor. I'm an assistant professor here. Just newly joined to NITK 2 years back. Currently, I'm in charge of a couple of labs. There's electrochemical energy system design lab as well as applied solid mechanics lab. So we do research on fuel cells as well as on batteries and electric powertrains. Okay, so I think I should be moving on. And when we talk about this course, conventional and hybrid electric powertrains, it's a lengthy course actually. It's a 5-day course. So I have somehow included important items in this session. Hopefully it will make sense. And at the end of the session, you should be able to grasp something. Something should be getting into your knowledge. I should be able to help you with some confusions, to avoid some confusions regarding the conventional and the hybrid electric powertrains. Why we study conventional powertrains when we go for the hybrid electric powertrains? That is the key thing that we will be covering, and knowledge of conventional thing is very much important when you go for fully electric powertrains. So that is a transition from conventional to hybrid electric to BEV to completely electrical vehicle technology. Okay, so for any technology, we follow this Bloom's taxonomy principle. I think it is also there in the teaching principle. This Bloom's taxonomy goes from remembering a concept, remembering something, and understanding it, apply whatever you have learned to the practical things and analyze it. So if you couldn't find fit for your goals, and go back to the apply or understand and evaluate, then create. So these are the 5 concepts from broader range to your much more precise, focused version, that is the creation. Okay, so this again we follow in the conventional as well as electrical powertrain development, because here we have to remember certain concepts, basic concepts. We have to understand the basic principles, then apply those to the practical conditions, analyze, evaluate in terms of performance, then create a new technology or efficient technology for the public usage. So, electrical vehicles, these are making a news everywhere. Almost every month or every day, you will hear from the here in the newspapers. Okay, some of the clips I have shown here. These are some of which are very recent. Okay, so maybe because of COVID, there was a lag in implementation, but we are into it. We are into this phase, but transition may not happen all of a sudden, but it will definitely happen. So government is mooting for it, and in all over the world, there is a big boost towards the electrical vehicle technology. So there is one more, there is a fuel cell technology that is my part of research as well. It may come up not any sooner, maybe after 10 years or 5 to 10 years. Okay, so if everything goes well with the commercialization. So as you see, there is a big push to the electrical sector, and we need to understand which are the sectors and how they play their role in the commercialization or widespread commercialization of this technology. Now, government is very supportive. Government is framed a FAME procedure, that is FAME policy, that is faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electrical vehicles. It has a lot of money in there. So they have dedicated around 8.95 billion, which usually goes for the incentives, subsidies, and also development of the infrastructure. Okay. So you can find information in the website of Department of Heavy Industry. So where you will get what are the models available and how many numbers of vehicles sold, the number of incentives claimed for those vehicles, and total number of incentives. Although numbers are less, hopefully it will increase in the coming years. So FAME 2 is a very good scheme brought up by the government, and you can actually read its policies in the website. So those who are interested, please go through it. It's really a good one. And if you want to buy any electrical vehicle, all informations are provided, including the incentives. Okay, FAME 2 scheme. Now, ecosystem, electrical vehicle ecosystem. Now it depends on the three things, three main requirements. That's the high traction, medium traction, and low traction. Now policies are framed, then you will have the requirements in terms of EV battery and in terms of grid infrastructure, and also you need to have OEMs, okay, original equipment manufacturers. So this sector is what we lack at present, that is the basic manufacturing unit of basic manufacturing of batteries. Nowadays we use lithium-ion batteries. They are into the limelight, right? So for that, mining and refining, cell manufacturing, pack manufacturers. So these are the actually basic ingredients to succeed in the EV battery area. At present, mining and cell manufacturing, we are mostly in importing the components and then actually assembling over here. But in the coming years, hopefully it will change. Okay. Then there is a grid infrastructure. So that is also very much needed. We have to have a lot of money funding required in terms of the grid infrastructure. Basic infrastructure are there in the major cities, but very limited. So that is the reason why we cannot go for the fully electric mode, fully electric vehicle. That we will discuss the requirements in the coming slides. But grid requirement, and also this OEMs, OEMs also have to be supportive of this policy. Okay. Now OEMs depend on these customers, right? Customers in various sectors, retail, public transport, and fleet. So these directly influence the OEMs, and when the OEMs are there, then definitely your policy will be successful. So these are all dependent factors and very much important in a broader extent to get a success in the ecosystem development, okay, ecosystem of electrical vehicles. Now, key OEMs we have in India, Hero Electric for two-wheelers and Bajaj for three-wheeler and sedan or other heavy truck vehicles. We have Tata, Hyundai, and Mahindra, which are doing very well, and they usually focus on the development in terms of the powertrain, okay, and control. So not much is happening regarding the battery segment, although thermal management, other things are there. But from the basic material level to the component level, these OEMs are lagging in some perspective. Okay, but maybe in the coming years or coming days, they will succeed in doing that also. So now this shows what is the impact of electrical vehicle sector. Is it going to be a fully positive, or is it going to have other impacts on the conventional infrastructure? So conventional IC engine, there are a lot of industries working on the engine and engine parts, right? So transmission subsystems, and these vehicles also need lead acid batteries, chassis development, wiring harness, suspension and brakes. All these systems, there are so many industries who are actually supportive of IC engine. There are so much jobs at stake. When we go for the electrical ecosystem, you will have a negative impact on these things, okay, these sectors. But on the other hand, you also have positive impact, that is development of electronic control units and IT related things, and controller parts, converters, lithium-ion battery development. These are the new areas, modern areas, advanced areas I would call. So which will get a better push. I think it will create a lot of job opportunities, but the knowledge upgradation is must if you want to transform from the conventional to the new ecosystem. Okay, so there are negatives, but negatives can be considered as a positives if we are upgrading ourselves and upgrading the knowledge. This is a general slide, vehicle versus needs. You know that it's very much understood for different terrain, different vehicles are needed and different requirements are there. Now coming to the vehicle system. Of course, you have a exterior, that's the body component, also the powertrain component. So where you have the engine and suspension, which is the this becomes the powertrain, becomes the drive line. Okay, so basic components of the vehicles, you can say vehicle system. Now, what we call as a general powertrain we mean by IC engine powertrain. Okay, so there is nothing like general powertrain. Here there is a general powertrain, but when we go for that, but we have to distinguish whether it is run by IC engine or any other power, okay, power source. So depending on the power source, we have the powertrains here. So you may for the IC engine, you have the power source in terms of engine, differential box, differential gearbox, and wheel. So engine to wheel transmission, and you take on the axle, you have a gearbox clutch with the engine, differential gearbox, and wheel. Okay. Now another representation of the same is that you have the wheels and axle. Power is provided by the engine and clutches to manage the power with the help of gearbox and the drive shaft. So this is the conventional notion, or the sometimes people refer it as the general powertrain, but it is not general. Now, electrical powertrain. If you take the electrical powertrain, you will have the big battery setup there, okay, and electrical machine will be there. So you can say that total concept of engine has been replaced by electric machine and a battery. Okay. So now here I am talking about only the electrical vehicles only. There is not hybrid. It's a fully electric machine I'm talking. So the powertrain is now, it is now more general, right? So it depends on the electric machine and the battery. So the power, if you need a higher power, you will have a higher electric machine, and the battery size also increases. So one of the disadvantages of this EV sector is the size of the battery. So it's heavy. It's heavy. Not much the electric machine. Actually, the battery is actually heavy. So you have to manage that battery for thermal and structural design. So then you can actually get a good efficient result. Now, setting the context between the conventional and this electrical thing. So you have the combustion engine, which takes the power, the fuel from the tank. Okay, then power transmission to the wheels through the clutches and gears. Okay. Here, in this case, the power is provided by the battery. So you need a converter to DC converters, and also control of the power. How do you require the power? It can be provided by power electronics as well as the electric machine requirement. Okay, so this is a basic powertrain difference. You must know just that this engine has been replaced by the components here: electric machine plus power electronics as a control unit plus battery. Now, this is the schematic diagram that best explains for the conventional powertrain. Now you have IC engine, so IC engine in parallel with the gearbox. So you have a power transmission from engine to wheels. So you know that there are advantages in terms of long range, fast refilling, low cost per unit. Disadvantages, mainly nowadays we use exhaust gases as the main disadvantage, but other than that, low efficiency, there is no regenerative braking. Also, noise factor is a important factor. Okay. Now, fully electric powertrain. Now the power is mainly provided by the electric machine here. So you have the gear system. You may not have 4 to 5 gears. You may have only 1 gear, or if you require 2 gears, there is no actually need of any. So typically it comes with a single gear with no clutch. So as and when the power is required, is obtained from the electric machine directly. So that's why you are avoiding so many components. You will have high efficiency. You will have the regenerative braking, and no emissions, and less noise. Means low noise only, because mainly it is coming from the electric machine or the traction of the vehicle. Now, disadvantages: shorter range, slow refueling, battery high cost, and battery low energy density. Okay. Here I want to mention that energy density and power density too are different. So battery has a good power density, but it has a lower energy density. Okay. So compared to supercapacitor and battery, supercapacitor has a high power density compared to the battery, but it discharges at once. Okay, for the supercapacitor. So that's the drawback there. So battery is somehow suitable for electrical vehicle applications. But this factor we need to address. But more and more battery materials are coming, new materials are coming. They are promising good energy densities, but at the cost of price as well as implementation, because degradation issues are there. That's why this factor is R&D factor, research factor. Yeah. Now, there is another concept of hybrid powertrain, that is the series, okay, series powertrain. So you must know that here the power is actually provided by directly by the electric machine. Okay, so the power requirement is provided by the electric machine, but for this electric machine is a function of both engine as well as electrical generator. It somehow manages. That means it is if there is a problem with the power, then it is getting it gets obtained from the engine power. Okay, so somehow it manages. So at a broader context, power is actually provided by the electric machine here. Now, this actually gives a long range and also has a regenerative braking, but a system is bulky here. It's not a simple system. So low efficiency will be there and high system cost. Since IC engine is there, also systems are, you have a generator, you have an engine, and you are having this in the series combination, and that's why you have a low efficiency factor here. And parallel hybrid is another concept where you have power either produced by electric machine or engine. Okay, so you have a parallel combination here with respect to engine and electric machine. So you can have either of these things, the electric machine or the engine. So here you are actually taking care of the drawbacks that series hybrid powertrain was having, that is in terms of the sizing. So you are actually you can downsize the whole system, okay, powertrain system with respect to parallel hybrid, but it has also some other disadvantages like limited regenerative braking, because generator component is not there here. But some vehicles are having this. That's why there is a limited generative braking and also higher cost. Okay. So other advantages are regenerative braking is there but limited. Design similar to conventional vehicles because it doesn't have a series combination there. It's a single powertrain, so you can have the advantage in terms of this parallel hybrid powertrain. Okay. Now, summary of construction. So you have internal combustion engine goes like this. You have the tank, IC engine, and transmission. For hybrid electrical vehicle, you have a small battery setup. Okay. So then the control unit for the battery, and also at the same time you will have the IC engine setup. So both will be there. They will coordinate each other. Okay, but in the here the range is less. So range extend electrical vehicle, you will have the battery capacity a bit higher capacity. Okay, so again you will have the IC component, IC engine component, as well as the uh, battery components. Now, battery electrical vehicle, you will have only batteries. That's why the battery size is more, and also there is no component of IC engine. Okay. So, coming to the electrical vehicles, on why they are that much of hype, that's because the mechanical simplicity, and whenever on-demand performance means whenever there is a requirement of torque, you have that luxury in this kind. See, you can see the graph. Okay, torque versus speed. In this one, you can understand that torque requirement is readily available. Okay, readily available, This concept is actually continuous operation, means you can consider it as a flat road. This is a transient condition where you require a higher power. Okay, so this is the main disadvantage of IC engine, where the ready requirement of torque will not be there. So this complex coordination can also be achieved in terms of the electrical vehicle. So there is no emission. So that's a big advantage. Okay. So this is the reason why we are enthusiastic about the electrical vehicles. Now compare again in terms of the parts. So you have the electrical vehicle, which will have roughly, this is a rough estimation, will have moving parts about 24, varying parts about 11, and battery to wheel efficiency is 80 to 90%. Okay. Compare this to ICE vehicle, a lot of components, moving parts around 150 itself. This is very broad, varying parts 24. Okay, so time to wheel efficiency, it is around 25%. Okay. Again, main thing is why we cannot go alone for the electric, and why hybrid powertrains are there. Okay, so the main thing is your aim is always minimization of fuel consumption, that is save fuel. Okay, so you can say that you should be able to turn off the engine at standstill conditions. You can have the regenerative braking, engine off at low power demands, and optimize for engine operating points. Okay, that we will study in the later slide. Improve efficiency. Now, improve performance and improve powertrain response. Draw energy from grid as and when required. Now, there are problems with the electrical vehicle, purely electrical vehicle, in terms of the size and the cost. So that's why you can, you already have the IC infrastructure, then you can make use of that with, in relation to the battery or electrical powertrain. So hybrid are a concept, and they are almost a reality everywhere you can find this kind of vehicles. Now, if you compare the cost versus benefits, then you will have the benefits overweigh the cost. So the extra cost for improved powertrain, that's because of the electrical thing. Cost for base powertrain meeting legal requirements, that these are the costs. And but if you see the benefits, incentives, this should be a factor of government. Okay, the government has to, in the initial years, has to support if you are going for the ecosystem of electrical vehicles. That is okay. Performance, fuel savings, base vehicle benefits. Okay, so these are the benefits you will have. Also, emission, no emission. So less emission, I could say, when you are having hybrid. There is a IC engine component, right? So if you summarize, then it is more powerful, in the sense that torque availability is readily available. Okay, so ICE do perform better at high speed. However, for the speed range that matters the most, an electric powertrain is more powerful. Okay, so we specify a speed range, then electrical powertrain will do better job than the ICE engine. It is simpler. You have seen that number of components wise, transmission wise, it is much more flexible, and it is smarter. So this is where the IT people, CS people, and EC people come in a role to play. So where you can get the smarter electrical system. Okay, so because autonomous driving or connected vehicle concepts are better suited with the electrical powertrains rather than the IC powertrains. And also you can have the concept of AI and artificial intelligence to improve the performance of the this electrical vehicles. And one of the examples that I will be showing today at the end of this session. Okay. So similar to your laptops and smartphones, this electrical powertrain can be configured into many ways. It also comes with its own disadvantages in terms of hacking, but the security issues, it is a later issue. It can be solved. Okay. So it's powerful, simpler, and smarter. Okay. So hybrid electrical vehicle types. So a bit of detail. Just wait a minute, 1 minute. I'll come back. Yeah. So hybrid electrical vehicle types. So you have mild hybrid, full hybrid, plug-in hybrid, BEV with REX, and fully electric. So mild hybrid, if you are going with a very strict fuel consumption norms, then you choose that which is readily available nowadays. And full hybrid, if you are having the incentives and if customer wants to go for the wants to pay for very low consumption rate, then you go for the full hybrid. Plug-in hybrid, if you are going to save the fuel ultra low, okay, ultra low fuel consumption is the criteria, means plug-in hybrid will be the option. So these are regulations that will be set up by the government. So if government says that this should be the criteria for the coming years, then you are preferably going for the fully hybrid. Ultra low means plug-in hybrid, and B with the range extended option. So if the customer is paying for full electrical vehicles, then of course it's expensive. Then actually B with REX option, and even more, very 100% fuel fuel consumption benefit if you want to get, then fully electric is the option. Okay. Now here it comes the impact of the infrastructure. So here you need to have the limited infrastructure because battery needs to be charged, and here fully electric battery size is more, so you need to have the very good infrastructure which currently is not there. Okay, so this is an option. In the coming years, it will be very famous, and after few years, fully electric may be the choice. Now, analyze configurations using this IC engine as a reference with the example specs. Okay, you have the specs in terms of IC power, stopper, non-stop at IC at standstill, recuperation power, that means regeneration related power, and electric traction power, charging from grid, means grid requirement is there or not. That's the infrastructure thing. Battery size, maximum traction power, and relative fuel consumption. Okay. Now for the IC power, suppose the power requirement is 100 kilowatt, you will have the 100 kilowatt IC power. Stop and non-stop is possible with IC. You can stop at any time and also start. Regenerative is not there. Electrical traction power is not there. Charging from grid not there, and also not required. So battery size, battery is not there, and also maximum traction power available is exactly the IC power, that is 100 kilowatt. 100 kilowatt. So the relative fuel consumption is 100% here. Okay. A mild hybrid, one of the examples here on the inside. Now, so I have explained you that it should meet the fuel consumption standards at minimum cost. Okay. So customers not paying extra for low fuel consumption. This is the requirement. So it's similar to the basic conventional IC powertrain. For some performance improvement, that means you can reduce the size of the IC engine with respect to the if you implement the mild hybrid. So how does it play? So IC power Here, mild HEV, you will have suppose 100 kilowatt, and stop IC expansion, yes, of course. Okay, so the recuperation power, since the regenerative thing is limited, you will have the 10 kilowatt, suppose. Okay, assume that 10 kilowatt, and no electrical traction, no charging from the grid. So battery size will be there, battery will be there, so which is of roughly of this capacity, and that's why the maximum traction power is this power plus the recuperation power. So that's 110 kilowatt. Okay, so the relative fuel consumption is 90% here. Okay, so you have saved a little bit of fuel, so consumption is reduced by 10%. Now full hybrid. So this is a bigger electric machine requirement. Toyota Prius and is an example. Most of the braking is regenerative. That means you need to have that component, and all electric drive mode at lower power demand. Okay. Medium performance improvement compared to the mild hybrid. So in that perspective, if you see, there will be a regeneration. Also, there will be a electrical supply, electric traction power. Okay. So the power is either utilized from IC power plus electric traction, either of these two. Okay. So that's why 125 kilowatt is the maximum traction power available. So the battery size also increases from suppose 0.5 to 1.5 kilowatt hour. Now in this case, the fuel consumption will be better. That's around 75% consumption. A plug-in hybrid. So whenever the concept of plug-in hybrid is there, you mean that battery size will increase. Okay. So modest performance in all electric mode. It will give a good performance in all electric mode. But the driving range is around 50 kilometers limited. So based on the conventional ICPT, there is a performance improvement, and Volvo V60 is the example for that. Okay. Now, if you compare that, you will have IC power 100 kilowatt, then stop IC at standstill, yes, possible. Recuperation power is 50 kilowatt, higher. Okay, regenerative is higher, electric traction is higher. So you will have the total power, that is the maximum traction available is 150, 100 plus 50 or 100 plus 50. So you will have 150 kilowatt. And also you will have the higher battery size. That's why you have the higher power here, electric traction power. Okay. So 10 kilowatt hour battery, maximum traction power, and fuel consumption is 25 to 50%. See there. Now BEV Rex will have the example of BMW, and it will have the big electric machine for full performance in all electric modes. So limited range extended power will be there, and battery size can be smaller than long range BEV, because this a range extended, just a upgradation of the previous, okay, plug-in hybrid. So you have the BEV Rex option. Now in that case, you will have the compromise. You can be compromised with respect to IC power, because you have a lot of power generated with respect to the electrical thing. Okay, battery size is bigger. So 100 kilowatt you can get from the electric traction. Also you can regenerate that. Okay, whatever the lost power you can recuperate that power. Plus you have extra auxiliary kind of a power from the IC power. Battery size is higher, 20 kilowatt hour, more than 20 kilowatt hour. So maximum traction available is 100 kilowatt. 100 kilowatt. So you can see the relative fuel consumption. It has gone from 100% to 10% here. BEV Rex. Okay. Now going for the full electric, one of the models shown here is of the Tesla. Big electric machine is required, which allows full performance in all electric modes. So range is more than 200 kilometers. Okay. Fast charges to extend range. So you have the higher range here, not just extended, it's a good range, okay, 200 kilometers. Now here, if you compare, then there is no need of IC infrastructure or ICPT. So the IC power given by for the IC power for the BEV is 0. it's not relevant at all. Stop at I say standstill. Okay. So recuperation power is 100 kilowatt and electrical traction power is 100 kilowatt. So maximum power traction is 100 kilowatt. So you will have the fuel consumption is 0%. So see the evolvement from 100 to 90, 75, 50 and to 0. So this is how you have come to the BEV stage where the electric machine plays a major role in terms of fuel efficiency, fuel consumption. So summarizing the HV scenario versus types, if you want to just meet the fuel consumption standards, you go for the mild hybrid. Also, if your budget is tight, but you want to go for the hybrid vehicle, then you go for the mild hybrid. But if you have the incentives provided by the government and the authority requires that you go for the high fuel economy, then you go for the full hybrid. And ultra high fuel economy, you should always choose the low cost machine because it's actually expensive. So PHEV you can go again. Full EV you can go. We have the some infrastructure. Okay, that's BEV there, BEV plus X. So only BEV you need to have the good infrastructure everywhere like we have now for the IC engine. Okay. Uh, so this is about the summarizing the HV scenario versus types. Next, coming back to the IC engine, so we have now very roughly understood the advantages of the EV and also how the powertrains basically look like. So this must be very much familiar to the mechanical stream, the IC engine. Very broader sense, whatever the work is produced, it depends on the this engine here. Now work is produced directly, it actually is transmitted to the wheel. Okay. Now it is a function of number of parameters, and you will see that this curve better explains the IC engine principle here, PV curve. So you have the theoretical and actual experimental kind of a load here. Okay, experimental curve. So theoretical curve is only like this. So you can see that based on this, efficiency of the IC engine can be predicted. So size of the engine mainly refers to the spec volume, how much volume can sweep, and into number of cylinders. So the power is actually given by HP or kilowatt. So it's in a very broader context. I am making this statement. Okay. Now, if we are going for the IC engine, we have to take care of the losses. So a lot of work is going on there. I think Professor might, I think HOD, your HOD might be familiar with this. So engine work is available work is okay, gross work minus the pump losses, mechanical losses, auxiliary power losses. Okay. You can say that if you have the 100% availability of energy, then there will be a heat loss. Okay, heat loss due to exhaust loss, pumping loss, friction loss, and final power obtained is only 20% there. So this is the powertrain output you will have. Now these are engine parameters where you have the PB, that's the work, effective work, what you got. WB is this one, available work. Okay, so available work N by 2. PB can also be written in terms of the rotation into torque, and BMEP, that's the work by swept volume, can be given by the this term here. So these are the familiar terms with respect to swept volume, power torque, engine speed, and engine angular speed. Okay, so this is the important factor. Factor R, crank radius there. So that's the important factor. Now efficiency, coming to the efficiency, you have this PB by PC. Okay, So PC is nothing but the fuel power. Okay. Then brake specific fuel consumption, if you want to go, you need to know the MF, that is the fuel flow into the engine divided by PB. Okay, this is given in terms of grams per kilowatt hour. Okay, so sometimes referred as people also put in kilogram, but grams per kilowatt hour is the usual notion for that. Now, overall, this is the slide where we are coming into for the IC engine, where you have the graph of mean effective pressure, BMEP, that's the function of torque there, and brake specific fuel consumption, that is written in given in gram per kilowatt hour, then engine speed. So this plot is the performance plot where you have maximum load is coming like this at this stage. Okay, this is the limit. Now, if you want to control your vehicle, or if you want to improve the efficiency, you can play with this maximum load conditions. Also, operating conditions. See, these are BSFC, so you will see that at this region it is less. Okay, so this is a good point, efficient point, where the consumption of fuel is less here. So low consumption BSFC, but if you go for other lines, you will have the higher consumption. So PSFC is one of the important parameter, and we want to operate the vehicle, of course, where there is a low consumption of the fuel, right? So we don't want to consume the fuel too much. So this is the area where we want to operate, but for the conditions, practical conditions, we may have to check how this performance will vary. So I hope you got the knack of this performance curve. Now, main thing is operating range. We have to understand the operating range of these IC engines. Once you have the engine torque versus engine speed, that is torque to speed conditions, you have this power, right? Then you have to convert that into force versus vehicle speed. Now, how do you do that? So how do you convert engine torque to engine shaft speed? So you have the transmission model. Okay, you apply the transmission model. So what is the transmission model? Transmission model depends on the transmission ratio, which depends on the gear ratio and the radius of the crankshaft. Okay, so you obtain the transmission ratio, to multiply that transmission ratio with respect to the torque, then you will get the force. Okay, so the force can be obtained if you know your gears. So typically in the IC engine there are 4 to 5 gears. Suppose there are 5 gears here, we have considered. So 5 gears, you have to get the gear ratios for each gears, then get the transmission ratio, multiply that ratio with respect to the engine torque, that you will get the force. Now once you plot force versus vehicle speed, then you see that the first gear will go up to, we can sustain this much force, and vehicle speed is up to this. And second gear, starting from here, which will be efficient for the second gear, you will have the range like this. Third gear, less force here, you will have this range. Fourth and fifth. Okay, does it make sense? Yeah. So finally, you have the torque versus speed here. Torque versus speed, which is converted to force to vehicle speed. Now, broadly, you can just overlay all the gears. You will get the curve force versus vehicle speed like this. Okay, and this is the curve you get, which is nothing but the total operating range. Okay. Total operating range. So, how do you interpret this kind of a curve? That is the important thing that we will study here. The next slide. So this is a meeting requirement. Suppose you have the curve force versus vehicle speed like this. Okay. Now you take this point. Okay. This curve. So this curve is nothing but it's suitable for, it is meant for flat road curve. Okay. So this curve represents the 200 km/h. velocity. Okay, so vehicle speed, right? So vehicle speed, if it is 200 kilometers per hour, then you will end up here, and it is for the flat road. Why it is increasing? It is increasing because of the traction. Okay, so at higher acceleration you will have a traction. So how do you interpret this one? So you have the curve point here. Now if you see the this force versus vehicle speed curve, you can go up to the limit, up to this much only maximum, right? What does this mean? Means if you want to accelerate from this point, you can accelerate, but it is limited up to only this point. Okay, you cannot accelerate beyond that. So only this is the point. So suppose if you want to calculate the acceleration requirement, you calculate the distance between this point and the maximum limit. So suppose you say 500 Newton is available. Okay, 500 Newton is available from this point. Then you divide that by the mass of the vehicle. You will get your acceleration. So that much acceleration you can go into here at this point. Now this is good for the flat road. Now what about there is a slope road? Okay. So the slope road condition is given by the second curve here. Okay, second curve. It is going up to this point. Suppose say 100 kilometers per hour. You always see that whenever there is a gradient, force versus vehicle speed, there is a intercept. Okay, so this is the initial force that the vehicle must counter, in order to have the good movement of the movement of the motion of the vehicle. So this is due to the 10% gradient of the slope of the road. Okay, so when you have the 20%, then you will have the intercept up to 2500 Newton here. So high intercept. So the starting point will be here only. Okay, so as you see, the requirement it goes up if you have the different gradients, different slopes. Of course, you will not have very more than 30%. You will have up to this limit. Okay. Now 10% gradient, 100 kilometers per hour. Okay. Now can you go for 200 kilometers per hour in this range if you go by like this? No, it's not possible. If you have the 10% gradient, you can go maximum up to here 150. Okay, maximum up to 150. That's also very difficult. You may reach up to this point. Now 170, no, impossible. It's not possible with this gradient. It's not possible. Now 20% gradient, of course, 50 kilometers per hour speed. Now, but you see that for this, if suppose the vehicle is at this point, 50 kilometers per hour, then it can accelerate depending on the range available. So this is the range available for this point. Okay, it can accelerate. So with that acceleration, it may go up to here, this point, but beyond that, it's not possible. Okay, now that's what it means to say. Next is 4 meters per second square. This point is showing you the acceleration at no velocity. Okay, so here the available acceleration for your vehicle is 4 meters per second square, and can maximum maybe at zero velocity it may go up to 4.25. Okay. Now for 50 kilometers per hour, again you can have 4 meters per second square acceleration from this point. Okay, that much window is there. You can go even higher. And for the third point, you have at the border, you can go up to 2.5 meters square. Okay, acceleration. See how it has decreased from this one. So can you go for 4 meters per second square at this speed? No, not possible, because you have the limitation of the gear here. So acceleration beyond this point is no, it's not possible. So now at this point, 150 kilometers per hour speed, your vehicle is moving. So this is the point, suppose. Then can you accelerate further 1 meter per or 2 meters per second square? It's also not possible. From this, it's going to be highly difficult. Okay, this is what the representation of the force versus vehicle speed. curve, and it's very important for your design of the conventional as well as when you combine it with the electrical powertrain. Okay, so coming back to the EV, electrical vehicle, so your IC vehicle has its own advantages. Electrical vehicle has a good advantage in terms of the moving parts. Also, the on-demand performance means on-demand power. Okay, so other things are discussed. Now, if you compare the efficiency here, IC efficiency, it will be well to tank efficiency will be 84% well to tank. Okay, but when it comes to the wheel to wheel efficiency, it will be 14 to 17 depending on the fuel we are using. Okay, tank to wheel is much higher. Now there are losses with respect to traction, so you have 14 to 17%. Now for the BEV, now wheel to wheel, that means the starting from the battery, starting from the assembly, grid, and all those things. Or if you're not actually, grid refers to the electrical grid here, so coal and all those things. So well refers to that. So well to wheel is the 27% efficiency will give. Now there are two variations in the hybrid. There are series hybrid and the parallel hybrid. Okay, so series hybrid, I told you that it is a little bit bulkier to parallel hybrid, and in addition, the performance wise, parallel hybrid gives you a better one. Okay, 24%. That's the wheel to wheel, and powertrain to wheel, it's good. Okay, 80%. That's a good advantage of the electrical vehicles. The powertrain efficiency is higher. It's a good one. Now 22, 24 percentages. Okay, so this is what is explained here. Now there's a new trend for the hydrogen FCEV. Powertrain efficiency is there, 45, and well to wheel efficiency. There's a hydrogen tank to hydrogen production and all those things. Efficiency is 27. Although 27, if you consider the hydrogen production methods, then it may decrease as well. So, but it has its own advantages compared to the battery in terms of the energy density. It has got higher energy density. Okay. So this is the futuristic thing. I'm also taking the course on that. Actually, hydrogen FCEV. Anyway, so coming as electric machines as powertrain. So the design parameter here becomes the torque versus shaft torque versus shaft speed. Okay. Now electric machines will have armature, right? So depending on the radius, that motor size will increase. So you have the motor efficiency going at different ranges. Okay. So the torque available here is around 380, something like this. So there will be a constant torque available. Power steadily increases and power stabilizes, then decreases. That means shaft torque is almost constant at up to certain range, then it starts to decrease. Okay, it starts to decrease. Now the other portion is represented by the generator. It's a generator efficiency. It's also similar to the motor. You have generator efficiency. So you are coming back here actually regenerative. So regenerative mode. Then again to obtain whatever the consumption you have made to the motor. So you know that motor efficiency is a function of torque and also the angular speed versus power. Okay, this power. Now this is the constant torque region, and field weakening region means force increases, stabilizes, decreases, or sorry, power. So EM base, EM max, maximum that speed it can go. So now given that condition, can you increase the torque, power and maximum speed? Yes, it's possible. So I told you that this is the power region where actually it stabilizes. You can actually increase by increasing this line here. So maximum torque you can increase if you have bigger machine, bigger armature, so for that you need to put extra cost. That's the thing. So maximum torque, and you can have the maximum power as well. You need to have the good inverters. Inverter cost will be there, so you can manage the power very well if you have the smart inverters. That is possible. It comes with no extra machine sizing cost. Okay. Another thing is maximum speed. You can manage, control this one without any change in the machine, electric machine. But the bearings you have to improve here. The bearings should be very highly sophisticated. If you can do that, then actually you can increase the speed here. So you see that torque, power, and speed they can be managed, they can be controlled, but they have indirect cost. Sorry, direct cost I can say, especially for the torque range. Okay, so maximum power, so maximum torque, power, speed. Now, yes, so the machine size, inverter size, and rotor design. How does the rotor? You need to make extremely efficient rotor in some mechanical rotor. Okay, so the bearing design is a prime influence here. Now, how do you compare this IC versus EM? Okay, so you already know that points. Remember those points I have discussed. This is for the flat road. This is for the gradient 10%. This is for the 20%, and other ones are the acceleration points. These are acceleration points. Okay. Now you club those into the EM, force versus vehicle speed of the electric machine. Then you see that this is the IC engine, IC engine portion, gray color. The other one is electric machine. So electric machine, IC engine curve actually is falling under the electric machine curve, and it has a good range as well. So, and also flexibility is there from any point. So there are many issues with the IC engine with that respect, that from you have the limited flexibility conditions. You see that curve you have shown, I've shown here. Yeah, here this is the curve here. Now, from if you are going from first curve to second curve, there will be grayed out area. Okay, which cannot be operated by the IC engine. But for electric machine, it is flexible. It can operate within this range. Now, if suppose your operating points are not going above this one, you can actually reduce your power requirement, right? Force requirement. That means you can reduce the torque requirement. That means you can reduce the machine cost. Okay, machine investment. Suppose you want to have the high speed rather than high torque one, you can also improve that by sacrificing on the torque region. Okay, so you can put a lot of effort on the speed as well on the power region, power and speed. Now, one more thing I missed here is that you saw this is a torque versus speed, right? So you have here force versus speed. Now, again, to convert torque to speed, you need to have transmission model. Okay, so from the transmission model, you get the force versus vehicle speed. It means suppose you have a point here, you determine how much force is required, how much torque is required, and you also measure the gear ratio there. Okay, gear ratio you measure. So once you measure the gear ratio, you will get the transmission ratio with respect to the radius of the armature. So you will get the transmission ratio, then you multiply with the torque. So when you multiply that with the torque, you will get the force. So this is the force or speed. This one you will get, and so yes. So compared when we compare, there is no requirement of clutch, or one gear is enough, one or few gears. So constant force at low speed. Smooth force variation, there is no, like see here, you have seen in the IC engine, there is 1, 2, though it has been improved, but you will never feel that kind of a force variation in the electric machine, electric vehicles. Very smooth transition. Often lower power at high speed. Okay, so can regenerate quicker acceleration response. Battery electric powertrain is heavier than IC engine because of the mainly cost component is coming from the weight component is coming from the battery actually. Now this is an application example of how you control. Can you predict the performance of the plug-in hybrid electric buses? Okay. So plug-in hybrid means you will have the engine as well as you will have the battery electric machine, right? So CNG engine, you have electric machine, so controller for the battery here, and wheels. So this is some of the real picture of the powertrain. Now your vehicle has to sustain the real world application. That means driving cycle. Okay. This is typical driving demand that one experiences, and how do you manage these different steps is important to achieve a good efficiency. As you see, a lot of work is needed in this one from the EC people or electrical or IT CS people. To controlling is very much important. So you can only control if you understand the EV concept first. Okay. So the idling mode to regenerative braking mode, whatever this color is coming from the battery pack. Okay. So regenerative braking mode. There are many different modes which can be utilized either from the engine or from the battery. So these are the typical requirements. Now, if you see a city bus, then its speed it may vary. Okay, this is a driving cycle, what we call. So bus cycle may have variations like this. Okay, it's very typical. Now you can actually understand how this affects the efficiency by AI or the what do you call that K-means principle. So you need to get the all the driving cycle patterns, then get the K-means, means at a specific point how many drive cycles are matching those points. You get the K-means, then using the K-means you try to approach the Markov chain based principle to predict the driving cycle pattern. Okay, depending on the driving cycle pattern, you get the performance curve. So you try to compare whether it is falling under your engine efficiency or the motor efficiency. Then you can actually control the parameters, okay, of the engine or the electric machine. Now these are the different driving behaviors you will see in various steps. So medium speed with some traffic jam, unstop mostly, until 8-1 high speed smooth traffic, unstop mostly. There are various conditions. Of these, all the various conditions you can implement in the model. You try to get the real grasp of what is happening with respect to the efficiency, then try to get the Markov chain transition probability. That means these are probabilities that the that the bus will go to a certain point. Okay, high velocity. Okay, so these are very sudden transitions. So with respect to that, how your model behaves, how your engine behaves, that you have to see. So using this Markov chain transition probability, you can predict the EM and EG requirements. So this is the result obtained for various what you call mechanisms. That is predictive control, model predictive control. This is the stochastic model predictive control. This is modified stochastic model predictive control. Okay. So three different methods. This is the real practical driving cycle one experiences in the daily life. So this is not a standard; it's a real working condition. So for this one, how does the EM retro machine torque versus speed works, and how does the engine torque versus speed plays out? That you have to see. And we see that the most of the points are almost in this region. That's a good thing because here the fuel consumption is low. Okay. Again, you can try to improve by shifting these points to this region. You can play out with the parameters and try to see how this plays out. Okay. So anyhow, these are the points you will come across in the real working conditions. But as you see, this is the European standard test cycle. So you will see that the number of points are actually less here compared to the practical working conditions. So real working conditions will give you a tough experience in controlling the EV or controlling the engine dynamics. Okay. So anyway, this is one of the examples and how you can interpret the torque, EM torque versus EM speed and engine torque versus engine speed. So if you know only the performance graph, you can understand this one, otherwise it's not possible. So whatever you have in the bottom side is the regenerative, right? It's a electrical, I mean generator. It's a generator, it's a motor. So that's how you can implement. You can read many other articles in the journals. You will find a lot of information regarding the control aspects of the electrical vehicles, especially HEVs. Okay, so thank you so much. And this is about my session. And if any queries, you may actually ask.
Thank you, sir. There are a few questions in the chat box. I will just convey to you, sir.
Okay.
So the first one being, what is the range of voltage to operate battery vehicles?
Which battery vehicle?
Four-wheeler battery vehicles, sir.
No, there are various things. If you are mild hybrid, then you have the set of batteries with the 48 volts battery setup will come. Okay. Then if you are going for the higher battery, I mean fully battery electrical vehicle, then the battery size actually scales up. Now I told you that this is a 5-day session actually, so that's why the battery concepts and sizing concepts I could not include. If you can actually go through that, then you will understand how the voltage and this current can be controlled using the series and parallel combination of the batteries. Depends on the requirement, power requirement, and also space requirement. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So that is one of the question. And the second one is, what are the research opportunities for the thermal engineers in battery operated vehicles?
Yeah, there is a lot. Actually, I'm doing it. I'm doing for the company. We are actually actively engaging with the battery thermal management. A lot of things are happening in the battery thermal management. Even the startup companies are working on that. Like in Bangalore, there are a lot of companies. And R&D sector, in the R&D sector, less is happening on the battery development rather than the battery assembly. And so the thermal field is, it's actually thermal management is very critical. Yes, it's good opportunities are there, and I think you can see Google it, and there are a lot many jobs are there in the thermal management field.
Okay, sir. And there is a basic level question, sir. Sir, just a minute. Okay. Sir, you had briefed about the negative impact of the new ecosystem on the conventional engine systems. Sir, based on your experience, what's your future prediction of automotive industries? Will the traditional engine systems be vanished away soon?
No, I mean, soon is a tough question actually. So I will tell you that for heavy electrical, heavy vehicles, IC engine will be there, but actually hydrogen fuel cell system is overtaking the battery system in the trucks or heavy segments. Okay, in that also, IC engine is phasing out. So that's the problem there also. But not any soon in India. We may expect a decade more for the IC engine. So still a lot of things are there.
Okay, sir. Those were the few questions, and few other questions are also there, sir. What are the current issues related to battery in electrical vehicles? How to overcome these issues?
Battery and
battery in electrical vehicles.
Yeah.
So what are the current issues related to battery in electrical vehicles and how to?
I told you know that one of the issues is that suppose you are taking two-wheelers, then you have the issue with the prismatic or the cylindrical cells that you have to choose which one is optimum, and you also have to develop a thermal management system for the two-wheelers because you can actually optimize the size of the battery and sizing of the battery. So that is one thing. Another thing is the size, cost. Lot many things are there. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So the another one, sir, thermal batteries and rechargeable metal oxide air batteries are commercially available.
Air batteries are not there. I mean, commercially not available. It's on the research stage. It is a very promising field. I think a lot many research is happening in CSIR Sikri, also in collaboration with Germany. It's happening currently. So I hope it gets, it's still at the very low scale. So device level yet to make. So not yet come.
Okay, sir. Those were the few questions from the chat box, sir. And thank you for the wonderful and informative session, sir. We will also like to thank you on the behalf of Department of Mechanical Engineering, Mangalore Institute of Technology and Engineering, on behalf of all the participants also. Thank you very much for the session, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. See you then. Bye.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Dear participants, the next session would be on society impacts of ever-increasing energy demand by Dr. Shashikanta Karnika, Professor, Namam Nitte, Karnataka, at 11:15 a.m. Thank you, everyone.